Hello everyone, I'm back in Frontierland with Donald Duck, and today I'm going to build the Mark Twain Riverboat ride and finish this toy box. Before we get started, I want to let you know that I'm planning to take a few weeks off to enjoy the beautiful spring weather and the start of summer. So this will be essentially my last video before my break, at least the last major video. I am planning to do a little something on Wednesday, but essentially this is the last video before my break. I'm planning to be back on Friday, June 10th, with the next episode of Toy Box Tutorials. And then on Monday, June 13th, I'll be returning to my Age of Ultron series, and I will finish that up by doing the playthrough and build for Sokovia, which is the final toy box in that series. So that's my plan for the next month or so. But let's go ahead and finish up Frontierland. And as I mentioned in the playthrough back in episode 47, we do not have any building pieces that look like a riverboat. So I'm going to use this snow ship out of the set pieces drawer, and I've placed that there ahead of time. And I'm going to begin by putting down the dock where the ship is going to, where the player is going to board the ship. So this is right across from the entrance to Frontierland. We're going to put 5 of those down like that. And then this is going to be the front of our facade. And actually, before we even put that down, let's pick up our building here. And I'm going to grab my screenshot. This is the one I want. We're going to come right up to the corner of this piece, and we're going to push this out just a little bit, like that. All right, and I'm going to flip this around so the door is on this side. Okay, and now we can go ahead and place this here, and we're going to line this up with the front of that little building. And we're going to need 3 of these. So that will be the entrance to our Mark Twain Riverboat ride. And then a couple of plants under the plants drawer. We're going to place down this tree here, right up against that building and against the edge of the terrain block underneath, and we're going to orient it like that, with that little sprig out in that direction. And then we'll place this out here like that. And we need a roof on that building. And yeah, we need the longer one. Like that. Okay, so this tree here we're going to style as Briar Ridge. This one is going to be the City Park corner, like that. And there's the entrance to our ride. And then we're going to move this button over here, and the player is going to be able to use this to summon the boat back if they want to ride it, and it happens to be on the other end of the toy box. Okay, so there's the facade for the ride. Now we need to put the path in. And I'm going to put down a couple of blocks for spacers. These little terrain cubes. And I want to line this up. Let's see here, which one of these am I doing it with? We're going to line this up like that. We're going to put 2 of these out here. Then we'll go back to the Creativitoys drawer. And the exact placement of those blocks doesn't really matter, but I'm trying to back them up a little ways from that button. The next thing we need is our path creator. And by placing that 2 blocks out, that gives enough space for the boat to slide through here without brushing directly up against those docks. And that did not put me in point mode. That time it did. All right. So our next point, we're going to go all the way down here to the end of the terrain block, like that. Maybe come out this way just a nudge, and I probably will adjust these as we go along here. I'm going to place another one of these out over this way. Try to give you a good idea of where this is positioned. Another one out over this way. We'll put it right on the seam. Not like that. So directly across from the other. The next one we'll put over here. About like that. I'll give you a good look at these points as we move along here. But basically you're trying to stay right in the middle of this channel. You don't want the boat to get too close to the shore. And put this one here. This one will come all the way out here, about like that. And about the middle of the channel. Let's come out this way just a little bit. And the last point, we'll put this out here just beyond that terrain scene. All right, we'll go over now to the path. And under the properties, we're going to turn the looped flag on, auto start objects off. And let's see what we've got. Okay, so this is getting up a little too close to the edge of that dock, so we want to move this point over a little bit. Yeah, it's still a little closer than I would like, but I think that's going to be all right. Given the width of the boat, I think that will be okay. That should clear it. If not, we can move that point a little bit again later. And then the boat comes around here. It's staying in the middle of the channel, which is really good. And that's looking really, really good. Okay. No weird little hiccups or anything. All right, so we'll attach the boat now to the path. So we'll do a new path connection on our snow ship. Again, that's from the set pieces drawer. Connect that to the path. Let's go ahead and take these little blocks out. You can see the edge of that ship is kind of close to that dock. So this might get close up here. Let's move this over just a little bit more. That's better. That's moving out away from the corner of that dock. I like that better. All right, on the properties for the snow ship. For toy box path, we want to orient along the path. And I think everything else under here stays as it is. And looped, yeah. Okay. So that's pretty straightforward. Now we have the smokestack up here, and so it'd be kind of nice to give a little bit of smoke coming out of that, and that's why we have over here an effects generator and a locator. And I've also placed down a level starter and a time delayer, and I'll get to those in a moment. But we'll connect up the effects generator to the locator. And notice which way that little locator is facing. The blue dot is facing in the direction that the boat is going to travel. That's going to become important here when we set the properties on this in a moment. Alright, so we've connected that to the effects generator, and now we can connect the locator to the path. And fortunately, that does not jump the locator, so we can come back here and still get to it. On the properties for the locator, we're going to the toy box path. Once again, we're going to orient along the path. These three properties are fine, as is the horizontal offset. Vertical offset, we're going to set this to be 16. That'll put it up at the top of the smokestack. The forward-backward offset needs to be -2, and that will move it ahead a little bit to the smokestack. And the rest of those properties are fine. Alright, so when the player enters the toy box, whether it's from the main entrance or Fantasyland or Adventureland, we want to start this ship moving around the path. And that's why we have this level starter. Now, this is going to kick off when the toy box is done loading. And sometimes there's a little bit of loading action that still happens after this is kicked off. Different things are started and so forth. And so, in order for the locator and the boat to start at the same time and there not to be any weird little hiccups, that's why I have the time delayer in here. And we're going to leave the default property on this set to 1 second. So what we're going to do is on the level starter, a new logic connection on catalyze. We'll start the time delayer. When the time delayer is done, new logic connection, when the delay is completed, we're going to do two things. We're going to come over to the effects generator and we're going to play looped out of the smoke category, the smoke plume. And we're also going to start the objects moving along the path. So on the time delayer, a new logic connection when the delay is completed. We're going to come over to the path and do a reset and play. All right. And then the button, if the boat is on the other side and the player doesn't want to wait for it to come back, you can push the button and bring the boat back. So on that, we'll do a new logic connection when pressed. Come to our path and do a reset and play. And just because we don't have a way to start that level starter, I'm going to pick this button up and put it down. We're going to drop a temporary button over here that we can hook up to the level starter, just to simulate us coming into the toy box. So new logic connection on that button when pressed will start the level starter. And that's all there is to the Mark Twain Riverboat ride. Let's go ahead and press it and see what happens. And there it goes. It looks like the smoke's coming out of the smokestack, which is really good. That boat cleared the dock, which is really, really good. There you can see that locator sitting right on top of that smokestack, which is right where we want it. And then the boat just follows along the path and travels around the toy box. So the player can use that as a ride to ride around the toy box and see it all. And that's kind of fun. And like I said, if the player comes over here and they want to ride it, but the boat's not here, you just come over and hit the button, and that brings the boat back. And then you can hop on and ride. All right. Now, the next thing we need to do is hook up the toy box doors to Adventureland and Fantasyland. And to do that, we're going to place down some additional toys. So let's head over here to Fantasyland first. I'm going to go ahead and wrap this toy box up today. And this will go pretty quick. So our toy box door, we're going to place this here the way you see it. So right over the entrance to that gate. We're also going to need a locator. And I'm going to place this out here. And let me get the... Yes, we'll drop this out about like this. And that little blue dot needs to be facing towards us. So like that. And then we'll also need a toy box door. We'll drop this down under the terrain. So we have two locators we're going to place down because we have an entrance to Fantasyland and one to Adventureland. So Adventureland, I'm going to make that number 1. So this is going to be number 2. This will be locator number 2. So the door destination tag, we're going to set that to be 2. That's what the door in Fantasyland needs to be set to so that it'll connect up to this locator. All right. And then on the toy box door, under the properties, we want to set the destination. We're going to link an existing toy box. We're going to set that to be Fantasyland. And I have not placed the door destination locator over there yet, but when I do, it's going to be locator number 2, and I'll explain that when we get over there. So the locator in that toy box is also number 2. So again, that 2 does not correspond to this locator. It corresponds to the locator on the other side of the door in Fantasyland. All right. And then on this trigger area, we'll do a new logic connection. Whoops, that's the bridge. It's the trigger area. There we go. So a new logic connection when entered by player Annie. Come down to our toy box door and change the level. All right, now we're going to do that same thing over here for the entrance to Adventureland. So we're going to need a toy box door over here. We'll drop this below the terrain, because again, I think it's a little more seamless to use a trigger area and hide that toy box door. And this locator, we're going to place this right here in the middle of that little spot there. And again, the blue dot needs to be facing us, and it is. So that's good. And then we also need a trigger area. And we'll line this up with the corner of this building. And let's raise this up to the height of the building. And we'll stretch this across like that. All right, so this locator is going to be locator number 1 in this toy box. So the door destination tag will be number 1. That's what we have to set the toy box door in Adventureland to in order to get over here and enter at this point. The toy box door in the properties for destination, once again, we'll link to an existing toy box, and we're going to link this one to Adventureland. And the destination locator tag over there is going to be number 1 as well. And again, that's the locator over there that I have not placed yet. I'll place that shortly. It's not this one because it's the locator over there. And then this trigger area, new logic connection when entered, by player, any, go down to this toy box door and change the level. All right. So at this point, I'm going to save my toy box, my Frontierland toy box, and then I'll head through the door to Fantasyland down there. And I'll meet you there in just a moment. Okay, here we are in Fantasyland, and the first thing we need to do is turn off the carousel and all of the stuff that's going on. So I'll come over here behind the scenes and hit our button. That will give us back some CPU, because without doing that, at least on my Wii U, the activity meter is pegged. So ahead of time, I've already placed a locator, and you can see which way the little blue dot is facing and how that's oriented. It's centered on the Frontierland door, and it's right out here near the base of the tower for Rapunzel's tower. And then the trigger area, I've dropped it in here like this, so it's sticking out in front of that door a little bit. And then, of course, we have our toy box door hiding down here. So on the toy box door, and all I did is place these ahead of time. So on here, we're going to go into the destination. We're going to link an existing toy box, and we're going to link Frontierland. And the destination locator tag is going to be number 2. That's the number of the locator that corresponds to this door over in Frontierland. You recall we set that earlier. Now this locator, we do not have one at the entrance. We start at the start pad, and we've already placed an entrance over to Tomorrowland. And we set the destination locator tag on this one to number 1. That's the only one we've placed in here so far. And so this is going to be number 2 on this side. And that's why I set this to number 2 over in the other toy box over in Frontierland, because I knew this would be number 2 over here. And then we just connect up the trigger area with a new logic connection when entered by player, any. Come down to our toy box door and change the level. And that now connects that entrance up to Frontierland. Alright, so at this point I'm going to save my toy box once again. I'm saving Fantasyland this time. And then I'm going to make my way over to Adventureland. I'll see you there in a moment. Okay, here we are back in Adventureland. And we are heading over to Tarzan's treehouse. That's the direction we need to go. Once again, I've already been in here ahead of time, and I've placed the locator. You can see which direction the dot is facing. And let me zoom out a little bit so you can kind of see the placement of that. And I've stretched a trigger area across here, as you see. It goes back about that far. Comes out about that far. Alright, so once again, back over at the entrance, all we have there is the starting pad. So we have not hooked up any doors over here to any other toy boxes. So for this locator then that I just placed down before the start of this video, this little clip, we're going to set the door destination tag to 1. For the toy box door, under the properties, destination, we're going to link to an existing toy box. We're going to link this to Frontierland. And the destination locator tag, I forgot to set this over in Fantasyland a moment ago, but we're going to set this to be 1. Back in Fantasyland, you should have set this to be number 2. Okay. And then once again, new logic connection on the trigger area when entered by player, any. We're going to go down to our toy box door and change the level. All right, and then once again, I'm going to save my toy box, and then I'll go through this trigger area and return to Frontierland, and I'll meet you there in a moment. Okay, here we are back in Frontierland. And as you can see, it put us over here by the Pirates of the Caribbean ride. And there comes our boat. And so that's really good. And at this point, you can delete that extra button that we used to invoke the level starter and move the creativity toys below the terrain. And this toy box is done. Well, the final thing you need to do, though, is hook up the day and night cycle for Frontierland. But once again, I'm going to refer you to episode 27, because you just need to do the same thing here in Frontierland that we did in that episode in Fantasyland. So I don't need to show you that again. So essentially, once you do that, you'll be all done. And with that, Frontierland is finished. But I'm not quite done with Disneyland yet. I've got 5 more toy boxes for various attractions that were too big to fit into the areas that we've built so far. And so I'll be back later this summer to continue this series. In the meantime, I want to thank you for watching, and I want to thank those of you who have shared comments and photos and videos to let me know that you're following along and building Disneyland on your own systems. I'm glad you're still enjoying this series. Before you go, please hit the like button and subscribe to my channel if you haven't done that already and you like what I'm doing with Disney Infinity. That's all for me today. Stay healthy, and I'll see you in a few weeks.